Hey guys, so I've been looking at uh, international news, specifically coming from the Philippines, and it looks like Bongbong Marcos has been elected president. A lot of my friends and in-laws are pretty pissed off and depressed about it. Others are happy. Apparently, if you see a Filipino with red all over their Facebook or other social media, they were a Marcos supporter. When I'm talking about Marcos, his nickname is Bong Bong, but he's Ferdinand Marcos Jr. He's the son of the dictator from the Philippines in the 80s that got chased out of the country after he put the country under martial law. Excuse me. And apparently stole $10 billion from the country. 10 billion US dollars, not Philippine pesos, which would still be a shit ton of money. But no, he stole allegedly up to 10 billion US dollars worth of pesos from the government when he went into exile. Okay, and apparently the Guinness Book of World Records holds that as the record for greatest robbery of a government. However, there's some contention on that issue because you can no longer find the article which was pulled by Guinness, and so some of the Marco supporters have said that it wasn't it wasn't true, or they decided it was false. That's why they pulled it. In response, Guinness has actually said that no, they still hold it. It is a historical fact, but they pulled that record for review to see if it needs to be updated because potentially someone else may have broken that record by now. And I'm pretty sure we have a good idea of some of the leaders in the current uh, world that could be rivals for that contention. In any case, I don't want to get too much into it because I wish the Philippines well, and I don't want to piss off any of my friends and family members who were Marco supporters. Although I completely understand how the people who are against him feel right now because they're feeling the way a lot of people did in 2016 when Trump got elected, that we just elected a maniac. Um, there's, some crucial differences, of course, because Marcos has been a senator for the last several years before being elected as president, and before then he was a governor. Um, just to let you know, nepotism runs very high over there. Okay, like people will get elected just on their family name there. Not that they don't here in America as well, but it's on a whole different level there. Like I'll see people running for election or re-election, and most people just vote for them just based on the name. Um, I think that's a flaw in democracy itself, but I don't even want to get into that. That's going to be for a different day when I can really go into why I'm politically agnostic. Okay. And why I'm just apathetic on American electoral politics generally. But yeah, I mean, I wish them well. Like I said, the 80s was a pretty radical time for the Philippines. However, his supporters have brought up that there was some prosperity in that time when Ferdinand established his dictatorship over the Philippine government. So that can't be denied, which again shows a flaw in democracy, which I will go into more articulately in another video, okay? But yeah, uh, he got flued out to Hawaii by Ronald Reagan when he went into exile, and President Aquino stepped in place of him, I believe. But his wife came back to the Philippines and ran successfully as a politician for years. By the way, she's still alive. She's 92, I believe, and she's still alive. So she's still alive and kicking. Meanwhile, the government has gotten back about 5 billion. At least I've read 3 billion, but it might be 5 billion back from the Marcos estate. But they still want the rest of it, including estate taxes from them. So good luck in getting that happening now that he's in office. And his running mate was Sarah Duterte, who is the daughter of the current president, okay, Rodrigo Duterte, and she's a piece of work. I'm sorry for the people who support Duterte and both the president and his daughter, but that's an ugly ass bitch. I've questioned my friends whether she was actually born a woman because the bitch is ugly as fuck. And she's just manly. She exudes manliness as well. And that was proven when I saw news footage of her actually punching a sheriff in the face. A sheriff. She punched a sheriff in the face more than once and got away with that shit. So, yeah, that's just crazy. Like I said, she's ugly as fuck. She's not trustworthy. They don't also trust her because she had once said in the article that, trustworthiness isn't really an issue for politicians. And I'm sorry if I'm making a straw man of that. I don't mean to, but that's the best way I can encapsulate how she said that. So the lesson here, though, is that the Philippines isn't in an uproar. Like there's a lot of people that's pissed off, depressed, frightened, understandably so, like we were here in 2016. But there's no one planning an insurrection on the government. Okay, there's no preemptive impeachments going on. Uh, like pretty much every president here since the Clinton years has been already up for impeachment before they even did anything. So you don't have that toxic shit going on there. But you do have a lot of walkouts by students, plan stuff like that. Completely understandable. Exercise their rights. That's cool. Um, but they're going on with it. There's a lot of civility still there amongst each other. Even people who supported one candidate or the other, who have to live in the same household or work with each other or whatever, or friends, which is cool. I wish we could do that here. But here, people take politics as their personal identity, and it's we don't see the same idiocracy there that we see here in America. And one of my Filipino friends told me that she thinks that the reason why they are able to get along with the disappointment in the way that they do is that being a third world country, and those are her words, not mine. I would never call the Philippines a third world country, and I really don't think they are. If anything, they're probably in the same place that South Korea was in the 80s. For people who don't know, ask your boomer parents if they're politically informed. Most boomers aren't though, so maybe don't ask them, just Google it. But but South Korea in the 80s was in this pretty much a similar state that the Philippines is in now, where it was a really underdeveloped nation and just starting to spread its wings in the democratic sense, um, but starting to flourish and have a thriving middle class. But before then, South Korea was kind of shitty. Okay, and that's kind of where we see the Philippines is where you're starting to have a thriving middle class there. Democracy is inching its way along. um, and so I regardless of who's running the government, I wish them well. I hope Bongbong proves everyone wrong, that he won't be like his father in many regards, but maybe in some regards, as far as bringing prosperity back to to the nation, which they haven't experienced since that era in the, I guess, between the 70s and early 80s. Um, but there's not much to say on that. And I know, like I said, I'm going to piss some people off who either think I'm being too lenient on the guy or that I'm being completely unfair to him. But you know, as someone who likes doing critical thinking, I'm not really a contrarian. Just to let you guys know, I always just say that because it's a running joke. But for someone who prides themselves on critical thinking, as I do, you know, there are facts. to be had here. Um, and the son comes from a troubled um, a troubled family. The father was a dictator. He did put the Philippines in a dictatorship. I don't think that's really under contention. I think whether it was a good thing or not is what's under contention, and the aftermath of it as well. I don't know, but you know, as a contrarian here, and my contrarian followers, let's wish the Philippines well and hope they do well under this new regime. By the way, their presidents only get to serve once. I don't know if you guys knew that. So Rodrigo Duterte only served once for 6 years, but he was originally going to try to run for vice president. So that was shot down by a lot of his detractors saying, no, you're just trying to be a dictator, which is when his, daughter stepped up and tried to run as VP. Um, and as I don't understand what's going on because apparently Bongbong wanted her to be his Secretary of Education, and a lot of people are mad about that because they're saying she has no credible experience as a Secretary of Education. That sounds familiar. You know what we're talking about here, some of you guys. But apparently she was a little bit disappointed because she wanted to be Secretary of Defense. So I don't know if she's going to be VP along with being the Secretary of Education or what. But we'll see in the coming days how things go. Hopefully things stay safe both for Filipinos and for us foreigners and expats that like to come there. But we'll see, guys. If you have any thoughts on it, please share it. I mean, whether you agree with me or don't agree with me. If you're Filipino, I definitely like to hear what you think about it. And again, prove me wrong. I don't I don't mind when people disagree with me. I'm not going to shout people down for disagreeing with me. That's not how I get down. If you're an American that's been in the Philippines or still in the Philippines, as an expat or a traveler, if you got thoughts on it, let me know. But like I said, despite how people might think of Bong Bong or the other people who are running, like I said, it looks like it's going to be a peaceful transition. There's still a lot of civility in the country, and my answer to my friend that Filipinos are just used to dealing with disappointment because they live in a third world country. Again, her words, not mine. I rather say that they have a sort of cultural dignity that we lack here in the U.S. that we may have had in the past, if ever, but if we did, we currently lack. There's a certain savoir-faire that I find in many countries overseas that I admire here. And like I said, I wish them the best. Okay, but I'm just a contrarian. But if you guys want to sound off and disagree or agree, please do.